Hey everybody, I'm Ron Alley. We're on the next adventure, going to other cities and finding out what's going on with their arts and culture scene. We've taken a trip to Huntsville to the Lowe Mill Arts and Entertainment Center. Come on, go with me. We're going to find out how this came to be and some of the things that maybe we can learn to bring to Smyrna. When did Lowe Mill, it sat empty, didn't it?
It was a warehouse. This is all because of the Hudson family.
Give us a little history.
Jim Hudson, he had gone up to the torpedo factory and loved the open concept.
And the torpedo factory is literally an old torpedo factory up in Alexandria, Virginia. And the basic premise is it's working artist studios that are open to the public.
And in 2001, he saw this building and bought it and started renovating it at that time, putting windows in all the studios. He brought in an art collective that already existed and rented to them, and then it grew from there with a lot of hard work from a lot of people. Jim is retired now, so Jimmy Hudson is my boss, owns the property now. It stayed in the family.
What is the mission of Lowe Mill?
For me, North Star is working studios
That are open to the
that
general
are open
public.
to the public.
It's a simple mission.
It is. A lot of times there's so many ideas thrown at you. Robert's like, are there working studios here? Yes. Are they open to the public? Yes. Okay, we're good.
Do they rent the space?
Yes. The other thing that Lowe Mill is that's different than most is we're a for-profit organization that doesn't make a profit. The challenge to me from the Hudsons was make it break even. And that's what my goal is every year. And the reason I try and do that is so that the studio rent stays low enough so that they still have access, because I don't want to have rent so high that only a certain type of artist can get in. At the mill, you have different price points of art throughout the building. And we do have collaborative spaces in the mill. We have Inside Out Studios and Huntsville Art League where people come together. It's shared with a lot of other people.
How many studios are there?
We have 153 working studios, and we have north of 270 people working on property.
And everyone goes through a jurying process. Anyone with any idea, be it a food, culinary, painter, printmaker, they all submit the application and do the same jurying process. So it'll be different jurists, most of them are off-site. I love the jurying process because it's not, Marcia doesn't choose, I don't choose. It's not one individual saying you're in, you're not. The fact that we're getting different voices who might see something differently from us, I think that's a very important thing.
I asked the jury to look at somebody and look at their body of work and ask themselves, are they going to contribute to the Lowe Mill community, or will the Lowe Mill community help them grow? And I think one of your jurors, because one of ours should be an art educator. I'm not asking the jury to curate the mill. I'm asking them to see how the mill's gonna help that person, or that person is gonna help the mill. And the people they jury in, I was like, I have to find a space for cats? What? But how much community those cats bring here. There are people that stand in that hallway and they're just up against the glass on Saturdays. There's comfort in those cats. There are college students here that can't go home and they miss their cat, so they can go spend time in the cat cafe. So it brings community here. I understand the jurors now why they did that, because it's community. So that's always in their head.
Everybody in this building wants to be in their building. The people with full-time jobs are like, I wish I could be here more. I want to be in my space more. I think that is, to me, is the unifying factor, is they want to be here.
I say this about the mill. It's okay to have all different levels of art. Sometimes the artist comes, maybe they're an established artist and they bring all that to the mill, but sometimes the mill is what helps that artist. They start to grow and you start to see their work. Especially if you walk by it every day, they go from here to here to here, and you start to see them find their own voice. I had an artist who left the mill because she's like, it's so hard being an artist. I'm like, yes, it is. She goes, but I'm glad I did this because I know now I want to work as a nurse and paint as my hobby. Like, it helped her find that path. and what she wanted to do. So you see those discoveries happen.
It's very inspiring seeing new folks, up-and-comers, wanting to help them out. The fact that all of our studio holders have 1-year leases means there's something interesting to see all the time. Being part of something creative, there's a value to that. Both of us could be working elsewhere and making 10 times what we make money-wise easily. But it's like you gotta do it because you love to do it, you love to be a part of it, and you think that it's doing something good for the community. We've been around long enough where we have tenants now that I was a little kid running around here, and now they're grown up and they're pursuing a field in the arts and they have studios here. So it's becoming so much more beyond us and any one tenant here. It's becoming a generational hub of artistic creativity, which is just wonderful to be a small part of.
It's really cool to see interns come and work here, and then they go away to college to get maybe their master's, and they come back on holiday to be here, and they're like, they have nothing like this there. They grew up thinking, oh, every place has one of these, and then realize when they go away. And I think that's how you also bring that generation back. And I say, go, I want to travel, go travel, go do whatever it is. But what's going to bring them back here?
After graduating from the University of Montevallo, I went to California and did my graduate studies at UC Berkeley. When I left for California, I had said that I would never move back to Alabama. Cost of living in California is insane. So eventually, after 4 years, I decided to move back to Alabama. I thought it was just going to be a temporary thing. And it was because of how Huntsville had grown in that time that I was gone that I decided to stay here. And Lowe Mill is a big part of that. It was because of places like Lowe Mill that I decided to stay.
To make people want to come to Huntsville and stay, it has to have something to offer that's enriching. The people that nurture art, they're taking care of the artistic side and the things that are beautiful and get your mind off of a lot of other troubles or help you work through troubles. And it's just incredibly important. They're exceptionally gifted people. And unfortunately, it's hard for them to make a living. So the Lowe Mill here, they've created a place where it's a lot easier and it's an inclusive and welcoming environment. And you know what? The public love it. They resonate to it.
We're at the point now where it's developing as human beings.
When I was done with school and had my home studio, all of a sudden it became this really isolated, solitary practice. Something that I, as an artist, have struggled with, not just as an artist, but just me as a human being, is forming deeper connections with people. And so that has informed my art in a lot of ways. Me being the type of person that has, for a long time been uncomfortable engaging with people, having conversations, being the observer has always been the more natural thing for me. So a lot of my work has been about being the observer, almost in a way being more disconnected, but having that desire of wanting to connect. The Flock series began from me just stumbling across a video of a murmuration. I was just in complete disbelief that birds can do these beautiful shape-shifting dances. The birds themselves don't see the grander picture. They are in it. They're in the flock. They're connected. They're this community of birds that move naturally. My desire to have connections with people is what encourages me to keep creating. That is a large part of why Lowe Mill is so important to me, to be able to have a space here to be part of this community. Just being in this environment has helped me grow so much as a person and has helped me open up. Having people come in here and talking to me all the time, it's been remarkable to see how my art can spark a conversation that you think may not have anything to do with connection, but then it just naturally forms this bond between you and the viewer. It's definitely helped build my confidence now where I can go somewhere outside of my studio and I can walk up to a random person and start with a compliment. You never know where that conversation goes. It sparks ideas when we talk to each other. It makes you think about things you may not have thought about before, and it's a mutual thing. I learn something, you learn something, and we walk away from it having had this experience that changes us.
You start to see people's mindset change. People have this mindset as an emerging artist being this very young person and an established artist being an elderly person, and that's not necessarily true. Sometimes a very young artist will have a huge following on social media and already has a business going. Sometimes an emerging artist has just retired from whatever job that they didn't want to do. They couldn't go to art school because their parents told them no. Now they're like, okay, I'm gonna do the thing I always wanted to do. So now they're an emerging artist. I think that's really important for people to get rid of those mindsets of what an artist is, or an artist space has to look like this. You can go down the hall, look at Brianna's studio that's real sharp and beautiful, and it's like you're in a New York gallery or something. And then next door is Carolyn Lambert-Wass, whose studio is chaotic, but that's the way she creates, and she does beautiful, huge sculptures. She will pick something up. It might be a dress, but then it ends up E.T. You know, you never know what she's going to tear apart and put in there. People are constantly going, she needs to clean that studio up. I'm like, no, she doesn't. Leave her alone. It's cool to stand there and look. These two are very successful artists. This is how they work. To me, it's very important for the public to see that they might not go from A to B the way you would, so they can stop putting what they think an artist should be on an artist. Hey, it's okay to see a different way to do that, because that's part of their creativity.
It's not just part of their creativity, it's part of their identity, of who they are, and they need the liberty to express that and work that out.
What are some of the elements that you have here that help foster that sort of environment? What do artists need?
It's important, I think, for people to have a space to create however they create, whether they're musicians or visual artists or people in the restaurant industry or whatever else they come up with. I never know what is going to walk in the door.
And this creates the place where they can do that in a community that's supportive to them.
It does. The Hudsons gave us this space to work in.
Here's a good example of why some people get spaces. I think it's a valid one. I had a commission I had to do as a portrait, and I had everything in my house to do it. It was sitting there, and then I was like, I'm never gonna do it because there's always gonna be the lawn to mow, the dishes to wash, or whatever. And so I brought it here to my studio, knocked it out, because here is a separate place for me to do my work, and when I come here, I work on my art. So I think that's a big reason why a lot of folks have it. It sounds simple, but windows are access to what the artist's doing. We ask people not to block their windows if they're not here, just so tenants and the public alike, so they can see inside and see what's going on and see works in process. There have been many times where it's been great to walk by a studio day after, sometimes for like a year, and see a piece come to completion. I get a lot of inspiration. My computer sending emails for an hour, and it's like, let me just walk the building for 15 minutes, and it gives me a refresher. I think a lot of people like just being able to walk amongst other artists, see other people doing creative stuff, and kind of jump back in with a little inspiration.
Sparks your inspiration and creativity, and just being around other people who are creative.
When I first started experiencing Lowe Mill, it was as a visitor, walking around, seeing all of the other artists that had studios here. It was a way to kind of see that there is a reality that you can be a working artist. Something that really drew me into this place was having other artists' energy around you, the inspiration of seeing what they're working on. So it was definitely one of those things where one day I want to have a studio here.
Windows to the studios make such a difference, whether it's somebody wandering in and they think, well, I've always wanted to learn how to paint or sculpt or whatever. So now they can start to have that conversation with a working studio or working artist. And you start to see these collaborations, this community happening, whether it's with the artists, whether it's the public and the artists. Now you can be part of it.
I started by applying for exhibition opportunities here. So Lowe Mill has several gallery spaces where artists not just from Lowe Mill but anywhere can apply to have an exhibition, whether it's a solo exhibition or a group exhibition. And then I just took the opportunity to walk around Lowe Mill, and if they had their doors open, I was walking in and saying hello. I got to see how they're making their art, just talk to them, ask about their journey, and it was through those conversations a lot of those artists encouraged me to apply to be a tenant here, to have a studio here. I decided to finally take that leap. Once I got my acceptance into here and moved into this space, it's been my home from there.
A lot of industries in my head are competitive, and I don't find that in visual artists specifically. They're collaborative. If there are 15 painters in the building, they're not competing with one another. Like if you go across the hall here to Ann Steverson and someone comes in and they want her to paint something in a certain style, she's like, you know, that's not really my thing, but if you go see, you know, Brianna over here, that's somebody that might be able to help you. So they're always helping one another, and disciplines come together, but they also, Anne might collaborate with a sculptor. So they're supportive in a lot of different ways. They can talk to each other about, oh, how do you do your taxes? Or they might be struggling with a painting, or maybe they're just having a rough day. There's a support system here, and it's not necessarily me or Robert. We can be that as well, but it's one another. They find their own people that they want to spend time with, and friendships are formed.
It's not only windows into the studios, but many of the studios have windows to the outside.
North windows for painters, of course, but not every studio wants outside windows, especially south windows. Printmakers don't necessarily want that south light. People that are textile artists don't want that. Some photographers don't want it.
It's a big draw for a lot of our musicians.
It just depends on the artist. What's important to one person in a studio isn't important to another.
You see a lot of the public coming in and asking artists about their work.
Absolutely. I come to work every day wanting to have a space that everybody can access. I wasn't a person that grew up with a lot of art. I was part of a military family. We didn't go to museums when I was young. I was creative all the time from a very young age. And the one thing Mom did for me when we moved from city to city, I've moved 33 times in my life, was we got to go to the library. And that felt like a space that I felt safe in the library. And even though it was a different library in every city, it was still a library. I knew how to navigate that system, and everybody went to the library. And I want this place to be that same way, where everybody, Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 7, anybody can come walk in a studio and talk to an artist. Sometimes we don't realize that not everybody has access to a museum. So it's really important for me to have this space open to the public.
Does it feel like it's more accessible?
The one thing I didn't want to do when I came here was take away all the grit, because people feel comfortable in gritty.
It does have an inherent community feel just because of the fact that the building has been around for X amount of years.
That was really important to me, that you still felt comfortable when you were walking into the building. We bring people into the mill. They know that they're coming to an art facility. They're working studio, so it's a different mindset that you can just come as you are and access an artist, access what an artist is doing.
Artists here actually have a built-in place for people to come and experience their work.
Are there requirements on being open?
We're open to the public Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 7. We ask people to be open 15 hours a week to the public.
It doesn't have to be the artist. If you're out of town for a month in Italy, do it a painting workshop, have your partner or your friend come in and open up your studio. But all of our working artists have 24/7 access, so they can come and go and work as they please. They like having a little bit of the time, 3 days a week closed to the public, because sometimes it's so busy with the public, you don't have time to work on your art and have that nice quiet. So we'll probably always stay at 4 days a week open to the public.
It gives opportunity to interact, but then it gives them some time when they can just focus on their art. How much promotion, advertising does the Lowe Mill do to bring the public in?
Every studio is its own business, so they do their own thing. If they bring it to us and they want it on our site, we will put it on our site.
Just kind of create this perpetual stream of people just coming in to see the plethora of things.
It's organic, and you let them create and they feel like they have the freedom to create whatever it is they're doing, then you start to see things like that happen.
I've been at Lowe Mill for 14 years. My son and I opened this place. It's called the Tangle String Studio. And our motivation was for me to have a place to build Danny Davis guitars and my son a place to record music. But over the 14 years, being in a place like the Lowe Mill, things are going to happen. And it sort of just morphed in through several different things. Now we're a venue
There's a lot of concerts that tenants host that are theirs, but is on property. But in addition to that, the concerts on the dock are specifically ones that we put on.
So we set up on the dock outside every Friday in May, and then in September. We block off the parking lot and everybody brings their picnics and their dogs and children and their coolers, and they sit out there and watch the band, and they park in the field. Funded through the parking. That's how we pay our sound guy and our musicians. And then we ask for sponsors. We just had the Navy Brass Quintet came and performed. We're going to have Tangled String Music and Arts Festival in the fall.
So there's a lot of musical aspect, but luckily we don't have to do the organizing and the paying of the musicians for a lot of those things, because the tenants, it's what they do and what they want to do.
Huntsville's very intentional about building the music community for several reasons. One, it enriches the community. And there's a large part of our population, being so close to Muscle Shoals, which is a famous music town, that are into music. And a lot of the people live in Huntsville. They may have a day job that's a tech job, but they sure know how to make music, and they're very creative. So to facilitate that, the mayor made an office, the Huntsville Music Office. And he has a Huntsville Music Officer, and he has the positional power to help it happen or let it happen. And I'm on his board, so I get to see the inner workings of that. And again, there's a good reason to do it, but one reason is it brings talent to the city. It also brings visitors and income.
It's important for towns or communities to have creative pool, because they many times go into other industries and are the creative force bringing innovation.
I love that all these creative people are now, that started here at Lowe Mill, are in other developments all around the city. What a great thing that is, to be able to say they started here and went out.
You're having effect on other areas, a broader city, because of that in a lot of ways.
Definitely, the whole city, we have an impact on the entire state now.
We're very involved in the community, but it usually happens here in the building. People outreach to us. For example, right now we have an exhibit from the Hart Gallery based out of Birmingham, and they had reached out and they said, hey, we have this traveling exhibit promoting fostering children and adoption. And we do these portraits, and we come and we say, oh, well, that sounds very community facing. Yeah, come and be part of the building for the month of May.
They're bringing it to your environment.
It seems like the building is the community.
Yeah, exactly.
If you think about Lowe Mill, let's pretend like there was no roof on Lowe Mill and you were looking down on the community. There's all these artists that are moving around in their studio spaces. There's visitors that come here that engage with us, that connect with us. If you just imagine that, I believe that this is a murmuration. Thinking about these birds as individual birds, they're really beautiful, but it's when they flock together as a community that they create this mesmerizing, even more beautiful experience. Lowe Mill is that community. We move as a flock, we rely on each other, we respond to each other, and so I think that beauty of being able to be part of this community is what really draws me in.
I think us being here is like, oh, there is value in taking an old building and making it as something different. Like, I think that is a direct impact of what we've done here in this neighborhood, and you see it elsewhere.
Now developers are all around us.
We went about 2 miles and we found another warehouse had been renovated completely, but it's turned into an upscale business park, a public area with stage, outdoors, and then restaurants lining around it to support people just hanging in the area. So all of this economic development came as a result of what happened with the development of Lowe Mill. What kind of things have you learned here that you might apply somewhere else?
One thing that we always get, oh, it's so big, there's so much going on. It's a big thing now, but it's come in steps and steps and steps. I've been doing stuff 20 years here. You don't do everything at once. When we first opened up, I want to say there were maybe 20 artists. So we started off in one room doing DIY punk shows, little pop-up markets and art stuff, and then we expanded to this wing. And then in 2009, we had prepped the third floor and that opened up. Doing the steps is like, you don't have to do all the things. You can start small and then you get a little bigger, and then another year you get a little bigger. So rather than trying to do everything at once and kind of running out of money and energy, doing the essential thing, what has to happen to make this work, and then see where your funding is, and then do a little bit more.
I would love to see places like Lowe Mill all over the nation, all over the world. I think it's important to have spaces like this. I don't know that they need to be this big. People ask me, what's your art? The Mill is it's the largest art project I've ever done. I want it to continue, and I need for other people to do this.